Good morning. Well, it's the day after the pour, and I just thought I'd do a short segment to update you. I like to include all the steps, just in case something's helpful. As I said, it's the day after the pour. The epoxy is hardened up very nicely. It's another reason I like that particular flavor of epoxy. Um, the Just to give you an idea, this is that little logo coin, dead smooth and nice and clear and very readable. There's no fogging here. I do have a few little waves in the bottom, uh, tiny ones, but again, this is the bottom. Um, Epoxy pouring is a little bit of an art and some black magic, but overall this came out quite acceptable, with one exception. When I went over it this morning, I found that in this one spot right here, for some reason my epoxy did not quite flow out and cover the wood entirely. I don't know how well you can see that, but you can see where the glare off the epoxy stops. So I'm going to have to touch that little corner up, but that's just the way life goes. So I wanted to show you when I removed the tape. This is not just a rip it off kind of thing, because the epoxy takes a hold. I'll do the best I can here. If this doesn't come out right, or it tends to be extremely boring, which would be typical for a WFP production, I will just put this in a bit bucket and let it go. But there you go. Try and get as close as possible, but let's just see what I'm doing here. So I'm going to start at that bad spot, the spot that got missed, because I know there's no adhesion from the tape. And a lot of this comes off very easy, but you gotta go slow, because it's the little, if there are little dots of tape that stay attached, those are the ones that can be excuse my head and back. Another beautiful morning in the Catskills, but we're supposed to have some rain this afternoon. Had a little run out there, so I'm going to have to repolish that whole section. I do not anticipate pouring anything there. This is coming off very nicely. Oops, that's in that tape. And that was a miss, in case you're wondering. But the edges are nice. I got that same surface tension lip, which will sand out and polish fairly easily. Still labor intensive, but getting the edge of this tape up is, remember when I showed you the taping process, I said you have to be very careful. There's another, I left a little dot there. I'll have to come back and feel that later. I said it's very careful. You have to be very careful and make sure you press it down all the way around. And that little run that I missed there is a result of me missing a spot. Everything else here so far is looking doggone good. Or dang good, as we say in some circles. Working my way around. Yeah, this one's coming off a lot easier than the last time. Last time I had some adhesion. That worked out quite good right there. If I have a little excess that puddles up, that's fine, because it gives me more material that I can sand down and shape. Yeah. Just rip the tape. I got a little runoff. There we go. There's another spot I'll have to, by my count, it'll be the third or fourth time I have to sand that section down and polish it out. But that's okay, I don't mind doing that. Better than put more epoxy on and starting all over. There's a little dot right there. So, and I ripped the tape. was another miss. Here we go. Come on, baby. You can do it. Yeah. Now I hit a section where, for some reason, soaked through the tape a little bit. So I have to go back and carefully clean that. It's always better to get the tape out than to try and sand it out. And this whole section is stuck. So I'm going to change direction. Sometimes pulling from the other direction will pull the tape off. Since I'm so close to the end here. Come around here. There's another spot I missed 2 times ago. And very carefully do this. And see if I get lucky here. Not really. So I'm going to show you this in a sec. Garbage. All right, pick you back up because I want to keep this as short as possible. Your time matters. So the edges come out real nice. I cannot show you that little lip, that surface tension lip. I'm going to focus on the defects because those are the things you have to work more on. So come around here. This was that whole section that I repolished out. It's still nice. But the tape's stuck here and it's really embedded. So I'm going to have to very carefully try to peel that out. I have another dot right here that's thoroughly embedded in the epoxy. And everything else is looking good. It's just got a sharp edge. That blue there is from the waterfall spilling over. You can't really see that too well, sorry. Bad lighting on this side. And then that spot that I mentioned where I had, you can see it right there. I had a little belly in the tape. The epoxy ran down into that belly, filled it up. And I'm going to have to sand that flat and polish it out. Here maybe you can, with this light, you can see some of that lip. Slide my finger through and you can see where it hooks right there. So that's good. I can just run down, back and down with some sandpaper and put a nice radius on that. And then we go around polishing it up. But here from, where's my finger? There's my finger. From here you can see no epoxy. Somehow I missed the flow there and it goes right up to right here. So from here all the way to here, I have to touch up, smooth out a little bit. That won't be too big a deal. I'll probably do that before I flip the table over. That'll be a little tiny pour, and it'll just take another day for that to cure. In the meantime, I have all the edges all the way around to sand and smooth out and go through that polishing process I showed you previously. So that's it for now. Just want to give you the reveal there. Again, it's looking pretty good. There's a few little waves in there, but again, this is the bottom. One leg is going to go about here, and the other leg is going to go somewhere around here. We haven't figured that out yet, but we will get those in. So next steps is to finish these edges. That's just a lot of tedious work. Do a re-pour down here, and then finish those and polish them out. And then we will probably flip the top and put some padded blocks underneath it and start filling up the pond to get that ready to start doing top coats. But that's a ways away. I will probably work on that pond before I put the legs on, just to keep this moving along. But what I'm going to do is, before I flip this, I'm going to let it sit for about a week to make sure that that epoxy is really cured up well. You know, it is cool in the shop. It's, well, I got the temp up now to about 65 or 70, but curing does take a long time. Just because you can run your fingers down it and you can't really drive your thumbnail into it, you still, it still takes time for it to cure through and through. So I like to wait a week, and then it's pretty bulletproof after that. So that's what we are. We'll pick it up in the next one. Bye-bye for now. Good afternoon. It's been a while. I bet you guys thought I dropped the ball. No, I didn't. It's been a long week. Assuming you can see me at all. Sorry about that. But today it's just coming up on 5 o'clock on Friday afternoon. The last time I left you was Monday morning. And one of the last things I showed you in the video was a spot where I missed. And it was on this corner right here. I had no epoxy from approximately there to here, and I just wanted to show you. I retaped that, filled it in, and it's all nice and blended. You can't see any lines, and I did that several other places. I spent the week sanding edges and rounding them off and making them nice and smooth and getting rid of that lip. There is no lip now. And doing all the corners, and I had a couple of spots where the finish didn't come up quite right. I did a couple of spot repairs where I had some low spots here and there on the table, and then I resanded those down. So that killed another day or two, just waiting for that epoxy to cure. I did want to follow up and let you know how it came out. You can see that finish came up pretty good. I got a few little wobbles here and there, all good. You know, covered with epoxy, but they just kind of, but keep in mind, this is the bottom of the bar. The only way somebody's going to see this is if they've been clients of the bar for a little bit too long, and by the time they're looking up underneath, they're not really going to pay too much attention. So I'm not too concerned about these little gimmies and bumps on the bottom. I bet you if there's 10 people that ever see that logo, it'll be a lot. And those will probably be the guys that move this around. So everything came out pretty nice. My issue that took the last 2 days, just walking you around while I talk here, all these corners are nice and you can kind of see the finish. I had to, not to put this in your eyes, but I had to add another light because it was so hard to see the dull spots. I kept looking for defects that I put another light here in the shop and hung it low so I could catch some of the dull reflections. I spent 2 days pretty much trying to figure out my polishing process. I mentioned earlier it's been 2 years since I've done a full pour like this, and I forgot more than I thought I knew about how to get the shine to come up on this and blend everything out. I showed you the deal with the different levels of sandpaper and all that, and that still works fine, as well as the, you know, the cleaner and the little Nova system, that works okay too. But to really get that final blend is very difficult. Get the color to match. There's a slight, you're dealing with optics here and the way light is reflected. So if light is reflected just slightly different on one section versus another section, it shows up pretty clearly that, you know, there's a difference. So to get those things to blend and look all the same color and look smooth coloristically is very difficult. And I tend to be pretty picky about it. So I messed around with different polishes, and not polishes, but compounds mostly. I was using, I don't even know how you pronounce this, Miguris, Meggiers, Imaginary, or whatever. This is, they make a series of these. This is the compound. I used this with good success on the last table I did. Here is the polish, and then finally, which I have not even touched, and this bottle is almost full, is the wax, because I don't really need that very much compared to the other ones. But that compound wasn't cutting it this time. And so I started messing around with power buffers. I have 2 different power buffers. This one I started with, let me show you. Oops, I'm making a mess here. This one is, who makes this? I don't even know. MVP Superline. Never heard of it. It's probably a Harbor Freight thing that somebody bought and I got in a garage sale, or my son left in the shop. I bought all new buffs for it, and I used that for the last table job I did to good effect. But this time it wasn't working, so I wanted something a little more aggressive. Here, I'm going to leave that right there for the moment. So I had this old Black & Decker. There you go. You really want to know, there's old data. This is really a homeowner version of a random orbital buffer, and it's noisier than heck. This was made before the technology of hook and loop pad attachments, so I had to do a little repair on it, re-glue the base rubber pad on there that had dried out and come off, add Velcro strips, went up to Harbor Freight, got myself one of these compounding foam rubber pads, which is hook and loop, and attached that. And then I tried that with the compound that I just showed you. After about 4 or 5 attempts, there was zero change. It wasn't even dulling up the super shiny section, so I figured it's not aggressive enough. While I was at Home Depot getting that pad, I came across this material. This is the same manufacturer. I thought it was a knockoff and they just copied the logo and changed the spelling, but this is the same manufacturer, so this is good quality stuff. It's expensive, and they have it in, you notice it's got a number on it. Now this isn't a grit rating, it's just some kind of a comparative number that they use. I can't find the explanation for it anywhere, but the lower the number, the higher the grit, just like with sandpaper. Now this is number 100, and if you read the fine print here, if I can focus on it, it says quick removal of 1200 grit and finer sanding marks. Well, I finished sanded up to 2000, so I figured this will work, but it might be a little too aggressive. So I brought it home. I tentatively tried it with a hand pad. Worked pretty good. It was the equivalent of 4 or 5 passes with the other material in one shot with a hand pad. Eventually I got the courage up to put it on the Black & Decker Mr. Aggressive with that sanding pad, not sanding pad, but foam pad on it, and that worked pretty good, and I'm pretty happy with the way it came out. Everything is looking really acceptable. I have not even got to the polishing stage. This is just compounding, and as you can see, the shine is pretty nice. Everything is coming up good. I mean, right in here, just the way I got the camera now, you can see a little bit of haze, but it's very tiny, and the polish is going to take that out. Now, this particular compound, when I was up at HD, they also had a 120 and I think a 200 or something like that. But this was $30 for this bottle, and it's a quart, so it's a substantial amount. This is their Pro Speed compound, the professional version. And I'm very happy with this. I'm going to put this on my list of things to use in the future. It's working quite well, and I'm pleased with it. So anyway, that's where I am now. I'm in really good shape finish-wise. I'm happy with it finally. I'm having myself a Friday afternoon after work beer to celebrate. I may do another wipe down on this just to make me feel better. And we're coming along. So shortly, the next time we talk, I will probably be flipping this over and working on filling in the pond on the top. My big order of epoxy came. I sure hope a gallon of epoxy is enough to fill that pond up, and we'll see what happens. But I'm not going to do any more work than fill the pond and maybe do the rough prime coat of epoxy on top, and then sand it all flat. And I'll leave once I'm satisfied that it's really flat and ready to go for the final, I will leave it at that point. Hopefully I'll be getting close to getting legs by then. And hopefully the weather will be a little warmer by then, and then I'll flip it back over after I get the legs on and do the final coat. So, and then once I have the legs, I can build the two, at least one shelf I need for the bottom, possibly two. We're going to see how that looks. It's another one of those, I got to see it before I know if I like it things. And it's all about having something that looks aesthetically pleasing to the client. And it can't be aesthetically pleasing to the client if it doesn't at least pass my muster first. So that's where we are. I've also been messing around with a GoPro camera that one of our forum members was kind enough to let me have. And I'm having some issues learning that and adjusting to the lens on it. Those GoPro 3s seem to have like a fisheye lens, and it's not giving me the kind of video we could use for this. So with that, I will cut it off here. Hopefully this will be a slightly shorter total video with just the two different clips in it, and we'll pick it up when there's more to show. Bye bye for now, folks.